Arteta post-game tried to erase the theology from the situation by just saying Jorginho produced an incredible moment. For us, it will always be Jorginho's goal. No.
Well, that is true. To be fair, he just started the production of it, but really it was Emi Martinez who made it happen. From the Men in Blazers studios in the crap part of Bedford, New York, and the crap part of Long Island, it's the Men in Blazers podcast.
We're back. Like Mac McClung. And how are you doing, Dave?
Not as good as Mac McClung. Oh, I love him. I'm wondering if Burley's going to sign him for 100 million to Chelsea. I could actually see that happening. Could be our new manager.
I think the 76ers asked for 100 million and then Burley countered with 200 million. But, yeah. Can we just say Happy President's Day, Dave?
I love President's Day, Rog.
Yep, the national holiday Sunil Gulati thinks was named for him. Dave, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. Needed this day off, I can tell you, even though we're podcasting right now, but I needed a day. It's been quite a few weeks at work. As you see in the background, my orange tree is there. Well, actually, sorry. As you can see in the background, my lemon tree. I keep on calling it an orange tree. I'm sorry I misgendered you. But yeah, I'm good.
Oh, mate, I am buoyant. We are taking a day off at Men in Blazers. We are only taping 3 podcasts on this Monday in honour of President's Day. But I have to say, we are super buoyed at the moment. It's been a wild time. Post-World Cup, we have had so many, well, first of all, so many new listeners who have found their way to Men in Blazers through the World Cup. I'm sorry to them. I want to apologise for your discovery. But also, partially linked to that, we've had so many incredible ravens to our mailbag, meninblazers@gmail.com. Hearing your stories, your feelings, the emotional connections that you experience watching football, riding beside us each week. Beautiful, rich stories. And I'm actually trying to pick a letter or two a week, because I do try and respond to all of them that come into our email mailbag. It's not the easiest task. It is a wee hours insomniac Rog task, but I'm trying to pick a couple a week to send an MIB patch to. And I was really struck this week, Davo, by a missive from Kevin O'Neill.
Yeah, this is so beautiful. Greetings from Baltimore City, Kevin writes. I'm a Washington Spirit supporter. I wanted to share 2 heartfelt thank yous. First, thank you for enabling my own version of fluid American EPL fandom by being the theatre and cast that bring me the Premier League's scriptwriters' glorious work each week. Wonderful work. Second, thank you for making me think of my late father every time I listen to your pod. My dad was a fan of sports. He loved American football and the University of Kentucky Wildcats first and foremost, plus whomever was playing Tennessee. He was a bald, also a professor of philosophy, an ethicist, a feminist, a pacifist, and deeply a serious goofball. He always had the radio turned to sports talk radio. For him, sports were about collective memory and reliving moments of excellence, and hearing your fellow fans call in was part of that. My dad died over 20 years ago, but I miss him every single day. There are so many things I would have wanted to share with him. Your pod is one of them. When I listen to Men in Blazers, I feel like I'm listening to talk radio as my dad would have wanted it. The collective memory, the joy and suffering with your team, but with ethical perspective and curiosity instead of chauvinism. I feel like I'm sitting with him, debating whether one can be a Newcastle United fan in an age of piffs or an American football fan in an age of TBIs. I know we would marvel together with you and GFOPs all over in the explosion of the women's game and its many remarkable, intelligent and courageous stars, and celebrate the growth of soccer fandom of all sorts in America. Thank you for bringing him back to me for a little while each week.
God, David, I just thought we were churning out crap, David. That is some pretty lofty, that is some pretty beautiful, those are beautiful words. And I'll say, Kev, your dad seems like an incredible human being. I'm so sorry that we never met him in Charm City. Could have raised a glass, David. But I do love that notion of listening to our crap and having someone, a loved one, feel alive again. It's incredible, mate.
Yeah. I was just thinking that my dad would have loathed our podcast. He was actually alive for many years of it and never listened. What does your dad? I've never asked you about that. What does Judge Ivor think about the podcast?
My dad is confused that he can't find it on the radio. He's like, I tried to turn to the dial to everything.
I went
even
on
AM.
shortwave.
Yes, even on AM. And you're not to be found. He's constantly surprised, my dad, when someone travels to America and watches our show, finds our show, is in a bar and sees our show. He's like, I can't find it on my radio. I just say, Kev, God bless, to Bulls, to memories, to reveling in it all. And Davo, there's a lot of all this week.
Wow.
So keep sending us your emails, meninblazers@gmail.com. And let's dive on in.
Yeah, the script writers were on one this past weekend. Okay, before we get to the football and their insane work, a massive week at Men in Blazers World headquarters upcoming, beginning tomorrow with European Nights presented by Paramount Plus with your mate, Rory Smith. This week, you're talking Napoli, my new team, Rog. I'm here for it. Cannot wait for that. And then at 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, a very special Tuesday Do It Live, coming right off Liverpool's Champions League tilt with Real Madrid. What a game that will be.
Come on, Uncle Carlo.
GFOPs. The link for AMP will be all over our social media. Just click on that to listen, or tell your Alexa, hey Alexa, play Men in Blazers while we're live, and it will play the broadcast. That's magic. Come on. Rog, would you get us underway with a twist?
Oh, sorry, Dave. I started early on
did.
This one. I had like half a bottle
I was going to say.
But I do want to raise my first bud of the day to the memory of the late Ghanaian international Christian Atsu. 31 years of age, just 31 years of age. The former Newcastle, Everton, Chelsea attacker who, in awful news, was found to have perished amongst the thousands who have lost their lives in the devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria. Atsu was there playing in Turkey for Hatayspor and was, by all accounts, a remarkable human being. He'd set up a charity for abandoned, orphaned and trafficked children. He donated thousands of dollars to help destitute prisoners in Ghana. He paid for life-saving operations without wanting any publicity at all. He was that gentleman, a remarkable, noble human being who really, even as a footballer, which can often be, you talk to footballers and admit, a selfish profession, was always thinking of others. And it was incredibly moving this weekend, seeing his widow, Marie-Claire Rupio, bring their 3 children to Newcastle for the game. They experienced just an outpouring of emotion from Newcastle fans, from their players, too, which said just how much this gentleman had been beloved in his lifetime. To his spirit, his values, his memory, Christian Atsu, as we always say in the words of Philip Larkin, we should be careful of each other, we should be kind while there is still time.
Oh, absolutely. So tragic, Rog, for Christian Atsu, that just entire, earthquake zone, Rog. It was just awful. Okay, to the football. Aston Villa 2, league leaders Arsenal 4. Mikel Arteta's Arsenal travel to the Midlands and come from behind, not once, but twice in an absolute thriller. It was the home side, under the avuncular gaze of visiting celebrity fan Tom Hanks, that went out ahead in the 5th minute. By the way, already the writing in this one, brilliant. Putting Tom Hanks there.
We need to pump up the cast. Can we get an A-list
what a piece
to
of
go
work.
above the line?
Writing a little guest starring role for Tom Hanks there at the beginning.
This was Arsenal Villa starring Tom Hanks as himself.
It was so good. And it was the home team that went out ahead in the 5th minute when Ollie Watkins thumped home for his 4th goal in as many games. But Bukayo Saka, of course he did. He hit back. Coutinho then put Villa back ahead. But Zinni pulled Arsenal level again on 61 minutes with an outside-the-box, near-post blast, screaming, F you, at the Villa players. And with the game in the balance, with Arsenal staring down the possibility of 4 straight games without a win, former Chelsea man, Jorginho, made an attempt from outside the box, which I've never seen him do before, and then thundered one off the bar, which rebounded and came off the back of hand statue prop comic Emi Martinez's head and into the Aston Villa goal, just like he drew it up. Gabriel Martinelli added a 4th into an empty Villa net after Martinez was caught upfield on a corner. Arsenal go 2 points clear atop the Premier League table. Every incident in this game, Emmy-worthy. Rog, brilliant stuff.
Aston Villa Arsenal, starring Hanks, directed by Spielberg, screenwriting Tony Kushner. That can only be the underpinning of what we witnessed. Arsenal entering this game in the midst of what seemed like the sound and sight of a bubble bursting, Mikel Arteta's hair helmet. I'd watched his boys drop more points in the last 2 weeks than they had done in that surging, joyous first 6 months of the campaign. Was this the moment when the Arsenal engine was stalling out and the mask had come down on the plane? Could Arteta keep a cool head? Could he land the thing and keep a sense of title challenge real? Well, we all got up early Saturday morning to find out. Arteta against Unai Emery, the man who realised at Arsenal it's hard to be the man who follows the man. Arsenal, Partey still out, yet to train again. He's going to be out for at least another week. Jorginho stepping in. And the Energizer, Trossard, starting in place of arrested Martinelli for the first time for an Arsenal who had not won since January 22nd. That were the stakes coming in. And even more of a challenge, as you say. Hanks was there, Davo. Hanks, Gump, picked Villa as his team in the 80s, legend has it. We know Prince William is a Villa fan. On this day, we were reminded that Villa are also the team of American royalty. And I've got to say, I admire Hank so much, Davo. Forget Save It, Private Ryan, Green Mile, League of Their Own. Was this Hank's greatest and most demanding piece of method acting, being a proper Villa fan? Is this his role of a lifetime?
He did it remarkably well. I mean, the amazing thing about Tom Hanks in all of his movies is he pretty much is just Tom Hanks in all of his movies. And in very similar fashion, he was just Tom Hanks at the game. It wasn't some sort of blown up character. This wasn't his... This didn't stretch him that far, but effortlessly he just made it work.
He looks good. He looks lean. He looks like he's whatever he's on, I would like a piece. He looks absolutely stunning. It is funny because at this stage of his career, Hanks is choosing the most noble people in the world and wrapping their brand into Hanks. I actually thought, because he went into the locker room of Aston Villa before the game, which was astonishing. I actually think in his mind, he was playing a great, legendary Premier League manager. I think this was Hanks, in his mind, playing Sean Dyche. And inside 5 minutes, whatever it was, it paid off. Cash plucked the ball away from Zinni, fed Ollie Watkins quickly, and you could tell as soon as he got the ball, he had murder on his mind. Saliba accompanied him, but he made space, screamed, "Tom Hanks, I am the captain now!" As he lashed across Ramsdale. Matt Turner would have saved that. 4-4 for Ollie Watkins, Davo. You've got to ask yourself the question, tactically, if Tom Hanks came to every Villa game, would Villa be champions, Davo?
Well, I mean, that's a question for the Premier League writers, Rog. I don't know that you can write Hanks every week. He's an A-list movie star. You can only put him in every now and then. I was almost thought you were going to ask the other question, is if Ollie Watkins...
Question?
Well, no, but it's like Ollie Watkins... When he looks this good, I can't believe he's not scoring 25 goals in the Premier League. This was like Saliba is so fast. What Ollie Watkins did to Saliba at this point almost sat him on his arse. He just went outside him and outstretched foot from Saliba. A fantastic finish with his left foot. Brilliant, brilliant goal.
It was run Forest, run level pace that Ollie Watkins unfurled. And Arsenal's response, it has to be said, was impressive. They knew Mings would have a mistake in him, and it came early and often. It was Mings' clearance header, often innocuous cross, more of a flick on, if we're being honest. The ball dropped to beautiful Bukayo Saka, simply leant back, acted as the punisher, leaving the co-coms to marvel. I love this. Once again, Arsenal showed their characteristics. I just love their characteristics. They did indeed start to show their characteristics, started to dominate possession, but then went and leaked to Villa's very next attack. Essentially, Arsenal looking like a bit of a very expensive Leeds on this day. A fluid Villa move from goalkeeper to goal within seconds. Moreno down the left, slapped across a dangerous ball. Threat level amplified by Buendia's dummy. And Coutinho thrashed home. Oh, some synchronised football. And Philippe, 1 goal in 32 games. Of course, he has to unleash against the Arsenal. Villa, 2 shots on goal, 2 goals. Dreamland and Arsenal GFOP. JL Scott captured the mood in the moment when he tweeted, deep down, all us Arsenal fans are getting nervous about that Champions League spot, if we're being honest, in this second. It felt dark, right, Davo? Villa sticking to that game plan, boss in the middle. They battered Saka. By the way, Saka has become a player where the referees seem to let anything happen to him. That's treatment that's normally afforded to like a wrestling heel like Luis Suarez. But that kid takes such a battering without any protection at all.
I think the other point that Arsenal fans, particularly those travelling to the games and seeing all the home games would tell you is that Bukayo Saka looks exhausted. He plays every single minute. He had the World Cup. He has just got the weight of the world on his very young shoulders. Not the only member of that squad. I think that, a bunch of those Arsenal players look gassed. And these goals that they're conceding, whether against Man City or against Everton, yes, it was only 2 shots on goal from Aston Villa, but it's the nature of these goals. They're getting cut open in key moments. And I think, I know that this ended really nicely for them, but I think it's this little soft underbelly which is getting some Arsenal fans concerned. Yeah,
Villa suddenly happy to sit deep, wind Arsenal up, just trying to throw them off their composed game. And we should say, you're right about the tiredness. So many Arsenal players, Zinni, Ben White, Saliba, not what they are currently in our imagination. Arsenal trying to come back, and it felt and the narrative was going to be Emi Martinez, a man who'd spent a decade at Arsenal as an understudy. I think he played just around 40 games in that time, was attempting to assert himself. He talked this week how he wants to be the best goalkeeper in the world, and he was relishing this game, flying at set pieces over all comers, claiming the ball, almost looking like an Aussie rules player making a mark. And Arsenal looked shattered. They really did, of leg, tired of mind. Really, I thought, God, they need to bring Giroud on. He would have been an uptick, not just in looks, but also...
Yeah, for his youth and energy.
Yes.
Emi Martinez, though, he already is number 1 in the world in goalkeeping housery. Time wasting. Yeah. He is elite level. I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody better. So he's good.
Rewritten the book. I mean, just he has the ability to waste time, which is an art. You need the referee to not really notice, but he does it while smiling and grinning the whole time. He both does it. The referee doesn't notice it, and the whole time he's like he points an arrow over his head, going, "Look at me! Look what I'm doing! I am wasting the time that is so precious in life. None of you will have this time back. We are all slow dying." And Nketiah grazed the bar with a header. By the way, talking about dudes who were shattered, whole thing started to feel like it was shaping up to be Hank's finest coaching job since he led the Rockford Peaches against the Racine Bells. But then, off a set piece, the ball fell to Zinchenko, and the gent who had just been miscalibrating all game just lashed it like some kind of cocaine bear, but Ukrainian. First Premier League goal in 92 games. No emotion in the moment, but by the time he got back to the halfway line, just screamed, belted it out, all of his teammates, let's get the hell out of here. Let's effing do this and get the win. And also, it should be said, had their chances. Ødegaard and Mart, left foot from the penalty shot, scuffed it wide. Ramsdale, wrists of steel to, I think it was Leon Bailey, a thrashing shot that was goal-bound over the bar. And at this point, I suddenly felt so dark for Arsenal fans. I felt like you've had that joy, you have dreamt. But my God, football is like life. Happiness is fleeting, always fragile. Darkness can descend at any moment. At that second, Michael Cohen, my Arsenal supporting mate, texted me to say, "Oh, we are looking so good. We are looking so good. This game as 95-minute Aston Villa winner written all over it." And he was oh so close to prophecy, because in the 93rd minute, Davo, I still don't quite understand how the script writers conceived of this. Almost too much drama. 6 minutes extra time, it should be said, because a certain Aston Villa goalkeeper had spent so much time wasting. Jorginho, ex-Chelsea, thrashed the ball. What happened from then on, Davo? Emi Martinez, 10 years a gunner. Explain.
Well, you sort of have to set up... the brilliant thing about the writing, Rog, is you have to set up Jorginho for his entire career in, his youth career in Brazil, and then his career at Napoli, his career at Chelsea. You've got to set him up to be a player who never shoots, really, really rarely shoots, never shoots from outside the box, because what made it so remarkable is that the Jorginho just made this attempt on this day in this game at the point that he's been transferred to Arsenal. That was the first remarkable thing in injury time.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, he always looks like a player in those moments where he's actually smoking a cigarette when a ball comes to him. He has to quickly flick it aside and be like, what? What do you want me to do with this?
I mean, the only thing that would have made this better, but perhaps this would have been a step too far for the writers, is if he'd taken a hoppity-skippity jump before he had hit this long-range shot in the style of his penalties. That would have been amazing. A long-range hoppity-skippity jumper off Emi Martinez's head, rebound off the bar into the goal. But
that's what happened. An ex-Chelsea player, until recently a Chelsea player, banging a goal off the crossbar onto the head of an ex-Arsenal goalkeeper.
It's genius.
By the way, a goal no doubt cheered across France, the nation of... definitely an agony for Aston Villa, because over 90 minutes they had been Tom Hanks, and at the very, very last they'd been very, very, very Chet Hanks. Mm-hmm. But is this definitive proof that karma exists?
Well,
it's a theological question.
Well, within this one game, yes. Within this moment, within this sliding arrow slit of time, I think perhaps. But karma has a long memory, Rog. It goes forward. There are going to be other games where Tom Hanks is not present, where there won't be these. Emi Martinez won't be playing against his former team, where Jorginho won't be playing. It just is just too much. I think it's a lot, but wow, what an ending and what a moment, and comedy gold. We should just say, even if there was nothing situational, it were not extra time, Emi Martinez hadn't have played at Arsenal, he hadn't have done that thing with the World Cup trophy, it was still just in itself, in its own moment, it was comedy gold.
It was comedy gold. And by the way, Eddie Nketiah, I know you're listening. Watch that goal. That is how you finish a header, just mechanically. Look at Emi Martinez. That is how you head the ball in on goal.
Kai Havertz, you might have a look at that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was just textbook finishing. And there's so much narrative. It's not a tactical or a footballing moment that we watch. I do believe that we saw theology in that second. I believe, by the way, if a hand had come down from the skies with a godly finger and just tipped the ball into that would have been less surprising, and I think less seismic.
That was the first draft.
That would have been less. That would have been less seismic than what we did witness theologically. It was a religious moment. It was a religious
providential
moment.
It was providential. I love it.
Arteta post game tried to erase the theology from the situation by just saying Jorginho produced an incredible moment for us. It will always be Jorginho's goal. No,
that is true. To be fair, he just started the production of it, but really it was Emi Martinez who made it happen.
By the way, I realised in that moment there was no such thing as free will. It is all preordained. I've become very religious this weekend.
Thank you.
No, but not for your. It's not the computer or the program. This is, I do believe, I've become a God-fearing human being this weekend because of this moment. I think that's the only logical response to what
you're saying.
We watch.
It's not a simulation, but God exists.
Yes.
And it is all written.
I believe in it all. At this point, Davo. After watching that, Arsenal added a fourth Martinelli, NHL-type empty netter, which the Arsenal players began to celebrate, as did Martinelli before he'd even shot the ball over the line. They'd survived a storm. Thanks to God, your notion of God, dear listener, whatever it is, project it here because it definitely exists. And they left with heads held high. Second time Villa had scored, first at home, conceded 4. First time in the Premier League, Unai Emery had failed to damage an Arsenal title challenge. At William writes in, GFOP tweeted us, mere milliseconds in the separation of human experience from, well, top 4's going to be a good experience for my Arsenal this year too. I need plane tickets for the open top bus parade. I'm so happy for all you Gunners. Massive win for your football club. And Arsenal who have tenacity, and Arsenal who fight. And we know that in football, how you respond to adversity is your everything. And on this day, Arsenal lived out the entirety of Rudyard Kipling's poem If, with Tom Hanks watching, and poor Hanks, as he knows well, there's no crying in football, right, Davo? Just no crying.
Yeah, absolutely. In 15 games to go for Arsenal Football Club chasing this Premier League title. It is going to be an adventure. I can't wait. But
the gods are with you!
The reason that they were able to open up that sliver of daylight atop the table is because of this result. Nottingham Forest won. Manchester City won. I have no idea how this happened. An barologist's dream goal as Chris Wood scores for Forest in the 84th minute to snatch a point on the banks of the River Trent. City had gone ahead via a Bernardo blast and had countless chances to put the game away, but they just couldn't convert. Even Erling Haaland looked mortal, Roger. But in the end, City slipped 2 points behind Arsenal. Arsenal have a game in hand. Steve Cooper's Forest, meanwhile, are unbeaten in 8 at home. They're up to 13th in the table.
Oh, City, we've got to rewind the vibe going into this one. After smiting Arsenal midweek, City felt like they were surging. Unstoppable. I read an article this week about invisible asteroids that could strike Earth at any minute, caps in the headline, causing
Why did you read that?
Unfathomable damage. When did I read it?
No, why?
Why did I read it?
Yeah,
I do
that's
like
not
to
good for you.
When the end of days happens, I like to be prepared.
How do you prepare for that?
What? Look,
For the invisible asteroid?
I'm just looking for invisible asteroids. I spend a lot of time looking out there. Never stop watching, guarding the universe against those invisible asteroids.
I'm looking at you now. Look at you looking for them. You're so good at looking for them.
One eye out there. One eye out there. Don't worry, dear listeners. I got you. He says, oh, I feel I when it comes to invisible asteroids, I will be the Brad Guzan that protects you against all invisible asteroids. Have no fear. But City, honestly, going to this one felt more threatening, more menacing, more unstoppable, even than those aforementioned invisible asteroids, Davo. And Forest, remember the reverse fixture. Forest had been obliterated 6-0, Haaland hat-trick within 16 minutes. This felt like it was going to be an absolute, just a obliteration part 2. And the atmosphere going into it, though, in Nottingham, needs to be acknowledged, was magnificent, magical. Forest fans have turned the City ground into a stealth fortress. I think unbeaten at home since September. And they've been waiting for days like this for 23 long years of exile. And they did not waste a minute, opening from the top by just remembering the legendary team who had won the Champions League predecessor, the European Cup twice, 1979, 1980, glorious days. And they threw them in the face of the City fans. Champions of Europe. You'll never sing that. Which, credit the Man City fans.
Yeah.
Oh, top of their
ready.
game. Came back with Champions of Europe. You weren't even born. And my Lord, Forest fans, in a moment of just freestyling football chants, chanted back, Champions of Europe. You won't be alive. David, that is some deep cut chanting, blending history, wit, and a keen sense of the football judicial system.
Yeah, and a keen sense of the invisible asteroids that are going to be blazing down upon Northern England, which will take out Manchester City, I'm sure.
Oh, God. And the Forest bat line. By the way, dear listeners, I bet you've not stopped thinking about the invisible asteroids since I first mentioned them. I'm so sorry. They're so annoying. Once you've heard about them, you
What's the
can't
point?
stop
We're not
thinking.
even going to make it to the end of the season.
Oh,
Anyway, here we go. Let's keep on going.
What a great way to go, though, if you think about it, to be hit by an invisible asteroid. If you've got to take your pick of ways to go, would invisible asteroid being essentially smited by one, would that not be the best way? If you are an astrologist listening,
yeah.
If you're an astrologist listening, please write to us and explain to me why it's actually so much more of a fiery hell than I imagined. Must be a pretty good way to go, though, now.
I imagine it would be quite fast, but maybe not. Maybe the dinosaurs went out slowly.
I don't know.
When that
But, like,
asteroid. Although, was that invisible? I don't think that was an invisible asteroid.
1 minute you're just walking along wondering if, Cody and Tarkovsky can stay fit for the rest, and then you just, boom, gone. Just hit. Thinking, I don't think my life could get any better than
What is it they say? If a tree falls in a forest, like that's the problem, is that no one will ever know what happened. No one will ever know that Arsenal were top of the table.
to the football.
Who will ever know?
On the Forest.
It'll be forgotten.
That'll be amazing. 5 minutes left in the season. Arteta's Arsenal about to end several decades. And then the invisible asteroids will just hit everybody.
Michael Cohen will be like, it can only happen to Arsenal.
Yeah, please spare Peter Drury so that he can poetically commentate on the invisible asteroids. Will he know what just happened, or will it just look like everything just...
You know Drury's going to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got it written.
Descending as if visible yet invisible. Yeah, never defeated. The invisible... by the way, I'm interviewing him on Thursday with your questions.
Ask him about this.
GFOPs. I'm going to ask him about the invisible asteroid. Question one. The question everyone in football's talking about, Peter.
Are you prepared for an invisible asteroid on the final day of the season?
And he'll just pull out a little card that he's carried with him to games for the past 30 years. Always had it, never had to use it.
Yeah.
Like
Ready
a
for
scout.
everything.
Be prepared. God, that Forest backline was prepared. Played with some verve as their fans chanted. They played with the same kind of passion, sat deep, disciplined, rode with the big saving Keylor Navas, just resisting everything. 84% possession for City in that first half, but held at arm's length, largely relegated to thrashing shots from long range, which is a fine strategy for Forest until one goes in. And on the stroke of half-time, from a corner, Greel swooped on the ball on the edge of the area, rolled it into a crevice for Bernardo, and he just smacked it so cleanly. Davo, through traffic, could have killed Navas. He hit it so hard.
Yeah, he hit it really hard. We don't get enough data on this. Was that the hardest shot? Was that the highest velocity shot in the Premier League this season? What was the highest velocity shot in the Premier League this season that actually went in? I thought he absolutely smacked it.
Could have killed him. First goal in 28 for Silva, and you expected City, ruthless City, hungry City, to just press on and finish that game off. Could have been, should have been 2 or 3-0. Best chance fell on 66 minutes. Two Pep's angel of vengeance, Erling Haaland, charged in on some Foden-created slot, close range, but thrashed it off the goalkeeper. And when Navas stranded, they blasted the rebound high and wide, glitching the code, Davey.
Yeah, no, it was a remarkable move. City had so many chances. They were so dominant in this game and just somehow managed to not score.
Yes, Navas sacrificed his Pulisic to keep his team close. City had 3 times as many passes, 23 shots until the 84th minute. Forest had an XG of 0.14, but they made their first and only shot on goal. They made it matter. Manchester City, they were upended by it. The narrative of our title race was upended by it. This game totally transformed. The break down the right, the incredibly potent Morgan Gibbs-White. We don't talk enough about him. Rolled the ball to Chris Wood, far post, finished it from the 6-yard box, his first for Forest, and became an instant Arsenal legend in the process. All of this down to Steve Cooper's plan, it should be said. He wanted to keep the game close. He wanted to seize the half chance he knew his team would have. He said it post-match. He said, you're playing an incredible team. For me, the best team in the world at domestic level. You have to sacrifice the ideals to try and get something out of the game. And that his team did that is huge credit to him. They were immense. Honestly, Steve Cooper has turned Forest in the course of 23 games from a patsy marked for instant relegation into a clenched fist who are trademark hard to beat. But City, Davo, narrative now flips, right? In the blink of an eye, from ruthless, hungry, circle of wagons, inevitable march to victory to, wow, they are inconsistent. They are mortal. And it will drive Pep crazy that this was the 3rd time this season his team have dropped points to an opponent who managed just one effort on target.
It's amazing. Steve Cooper knows exactly who his team are. He knows exactly who they are. He knows exactly what they aren't. He knows exactly how to deploy that. It's just, in any sport, understanding your own percentages, understanding your own ability, the shots you can hit, the shots you can't hit is so important. Pep, how does he know what his team are? Like, he's got so many incredible pieces. They can be so dominant. Even during this game, they can just be so dominant at times and fail to score. How can his brain compute that? Not only ourselves, but every pundit in football just goes through these incredible moves. Think 24 games into Manchester City's season. We've changed our minds so many times about who they are and what they're like. How does Pep deal with it?
I mean, part of it is like he opens his cupboard in the morning and he sees so many avant-garde pieces of clothing in there. Sweaters with hoods on, hoods with sweaters attached, just
jeans
cargo
with
pants with the
washes.
pockets in the row. Yeah. I mean, if he can work out just how the hell to get dressed in the morning, that man.
Impossible.
I mean, his flies are in just different places. But he did say something fascinating before this game that makes you think about both questions.
What do you mean his flies are in different places?
No, he doesn't just like the fly where his down belows are. No, why would you have it there when you can have it up your ass crack? I don't know.
I haven't noticed that.
I'll
have to have a closer look.
That's how he picks his team. He said before this game, people are knocking me for making crazy tactical decisions, but he wakes up in the middle of the night and thinking of his first team, and he says, poor guy can't work out where his fly are. So we know what's going to happen there. 4:00 in the morning. Why is my fly over my left nipple? I don't even know anymore. But the thing is, he said if 89% of my opponent managers can work out what my team is, I'm not going to go with that team. And that is the kind of, we used to talk about Arsenal a couple of seasons ago, just being like a gentleman who had his penis severed in a terrible accident. I can't remember how or why. And the newspaper proudly wrote that he'd had his penis attached to his arm. And I don't know why I'm thinking about that now. But I do believe that for teams who are on arm penis, that's when the fly goes on the sleeve.
But the irony of not that story, but what you were saying before is that, do you think Steve Cooper is worrying about who Pep Guardiola is going to select and put in his team? He's not, because he knows that whichever 11 he puts out there are going to be unbelievable, that he's just going to have to defend like banshees for 87 minutes and try and steal a half chance at the end. Pep may be overthinking this a little bit.
I can't think of anything other than invisible asteroids and arm penises now. I can't even remember where that came. Any listener who can remember about the arm penis that
that's
we talked about in
that's
depth
a title
for
for this vid on YouTube. There you go.
United.
So what an incredible game. Man City now 2 points behind Arsenal, a game in hand. What an unbelievable finish we have to this Premier League season. And there may be, Roger, a third team in it.
Everton.
No, but Man United. They beat Leicester 3-0. A game that continued to demonstrate the impact a tactical visionary can have at a football club when installed as manager. And Erik ten Hag is doing pretty well also. His United ride the hot hand of Marcus Rashford. Wow. Lord Rashford, who continues to treat the Premier League with the casual dominance normally reserved for the NBA skills contest. He scored twice in this one to bring his post-World Cup tally to 16 goals in 17 games. Jadon Sancho added a third beautiful goal, and United continue flying 5 points behind Arsenal, now just 3 points behind City.
Off the field, United are afire with takeover talks and choose your own moral adventure decisions to be made, but on it, they are thriving. A humdinger of a game. Leicester slapped 8 goals in the last 2 games, opened up a tired United who had played just 65 hours earlier in Barcelona and were vulnerable down the right side over and over and over. Harvey Barnes slipping through on David De Gea, who slopped his shot away derisively. And we're going to credit De Gea. I think this was his 180th clean sheet on the day, a club record, or tying the club record of Schmeichel. And De Gea is so immense, so much focus over so many games. Hard to imagine what it must be like to be an elite goalkeeper for that long, kind of like living your life underwater with all that pressure. But Leicester created constant danger. Could have been 3-0 up. But my lord, United, against a run of play, first shot on goal. It's all they needed to assert themselves. Voot fast, turn the ball over at the halfway line. And at this level, a mistake like that can be punished by clinical teams. But the way United quickly worked the ball. David Bruno, that outside of the foot, that scoop into space, that was Picasso football.
Yeah, super. I mean, he was outstanding throughout this entire game. And just performances all over the field. A manager so focused. I love Ten Hag on the sideline. He's just so focused on the game at hand and what's going on in each individual matchup. He's coaching the entire team. He's coaching zones. He's coaching individual players. Just working so hard.
Yeah, and what he has done to resuscitate Marcus Rashford, you just knew when it was him running in on goal that unlike mere mortal strikers, he was not going to miss. Steadied himself, rifled clinically past Danny Ward like Premier League Barry Pepper and Davo. This was so much more than just a 540-degree jam. 7 consecutive league games at Old Trafford. He scored 15 goals in 17 games. He touched his temples and closed his eyes in celebration. So serene. A gent who had bust through in his career, was heralded as a local wonder, but then crashed, was pilloried, is now soaring again. What must he be feeling? I did wonder. I wondered, what can I do in my own life like Marcus Rashford scores goals? And the only thing I could think of was drink beers. But he is both proof that good things happen to great people. But what he's doing, what we're witnessing right now, it's real sustained sporting greatness.
It's a movie script. A young man who joined Manchester United at the age of 7, Rog, at the age of 7 years old, he joined that team. And everything he's been through since he's been there, both from a footballing perspective, from a non-footballing perspective, and just to watch him have these moments, to watch him have his moment right now, this post-World Cup, vein of form that he's in, playing like, honestly, one of the best players in the world right now. It is just so wonderful to watch.
Yeah. God, he did it again because Leicester continued to have almost all the chances. But the second he was sprung beyond the Leicester offside trap, killed the game off. I think it was Fred that played him in. 24 goals on this season. Marcus is chasing Haaland like almost it's like watching the tortoise and the large cocky Nordic hare. Bruno quickly set Sancho up for a sumptuous third. Incredible to see Jadon also now returning it to his confidence of old. And Old Trafford resounding with pride and wonder again. Vintage United. One last great moment. Vardy came on. United fans started to chant at Vardy the second he ran on. Your wife's a snitch, your wife's a snitch, and chanted Rooney, 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 to which Leicester fans, fair game, chanted back, fat granny shagger, you're just a fat granny shagger. I listened to that, Dave, and I was like, oh, from the same island that brought the world Shakespeare and Chaucer, we have football bants.
Yeah, well, Chaucer probably would have written fat Granny Shagger, but it's probably in the Miller's Tale at some point.
Heady days for United, though.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch the way, and not just heady days, but they're starting to play a version of football that is reminiscent of some of the great, expansive, just sublime football played under Sir Alex Ferguson. Rog, this is the football that Man United fans dream of going to see at the Theatre of Dreams.
Yeah, I mean, it's just heady days. It really is. Barcelona coming this week, and Bar Voet Weghorst, that United swagger's back, and we've hoped that we could say this before. There were moments under Ole, the PSG win. Mourinho had a flickering couple of moments, but what Ten Hag has done is so different. The exorcism of Ronaldo, the squad build, his idea of football. A sense that the drama is now not at the forefront, but it's kept professionally behind closed doors. And the Theatre of Dreams, Manchester United, is starting. It's been so long, honestly, since we could say this, that Manchester United are bloody good at football. And the Premier League is all the better for it. United don't play again in the league until March the 5th. At Anfield, that game, huge stakes there. They Carabao next weekend. Really, the significance of that game against Newcastle elevated because it could be a real milestone, a real platform for winning for Ten Hag's project. That message of the first piece of silverware will send 3 points behind City, 5 behind Arsenal. It's a 3-way title race, there is no doubt, but we need to talk quickly about United off the field following the Glazers' announcement last November that they were enlisting Rain Group, the US bank that oversaw the Chelsea sale, to, quote, seek strategic alternatives for the running of United. Friday was a soft deadline for initial offers. There were at least 2 bids from rival groups. British chemicals billionaire Jim Ratcliffe, the founder of global multinational Ineos, and Sheikh Yassim bin Hamad Al Thani, the chairman of the Qatar Islamic Bank. They both announced their interest to become sole owners. The latter said to be offering around $5 billion. An auction is expected to ensue. There's also the option hedge fund Elliott Management, till recently owners of AC Milan, are willing to give the Glazers the financial support they need to retain control and modernise Old Trafford in the process. Huge furore, it should be said, across England about the possibility of Qatar, PSG owning Qatar, owning the crown jewel Manchester United. United fans seem to be torn between the morals of it all and let's get the money in and buy Mbappe. And there's no doubt that pretending a single Qatari's got enough money to buy United and that it's not a state-sponsored move is a ridiculous way to be. But the Premier League...
You're saying Mr. Q doesn't have enough money to buy Man United.
Mr. Q coming in hot. How do you analyse it? Because if they do allow United to be owned by essentially what is, let's be honest, it is a nation state power move. This would essentially be a white flag waved in the face of sports washing, right?
Yes, but the Premier League has already, broken every rule. It's so far down the road of, allowing, private equity firms to own Premier League teams, which, the NFL wouldn't allow a private equity firm to own a Premier League team, allowing, nation states to, and dodgy nation states of that, allowing them to buy. So they're already down the road. How do they now turn to Man United and say, no, you can't do it too? As a football is just like, there's no turning back. I don't know where it goes.
God, for me, there are all kinds of complexities. There's a human rights dimension. There's a conflict of interest with PSG. And there's the fact that 3 of the Premier League's biggest clubs would either be owned or deeply, deeply influenced by the 3 states that were involved in the Gulf blockade, which kind of makes the Premier League, which you think of as massive, just a tiny extension and a new battleground for a geopolitical regional battle.
It's a pawn.
Yeah. But that would all be happening while the Premier League is in the midst of charging its first nation state owner with 115 breaches and at the same time welcoming another in the same city. There seems to be no checks, no balances, just greed, really reckless greed. The thing that pains me is taking fandom, multi-generational fandom, and just assuming that the golden goose is football will never stop laying its golden eggs. Bonnie Renee in The Guardian, I'm going to give the last word to him. He wrote, "This is how football works. This is how deregulated industries work. This is how energy dependence on Qatar works."
Yeah, although to say that regulation would stop this from happening when the government are pretty much just as culpable with the relationship with these same nation states, but I take the point. Okay, Newcastle 0, Liverpool 2, a performance reminiscent of the quadruple hunters of yore, but with 2 new names on the score sheet. Goals from Darwin Núñez, wonderful take and finish, and Cody Gakpo highlight a really impressive Liverpool performance. Back-to-back wins has them up to 8th place and has started to send whispers of a top 4 run around the Liverpool faithful.
Liverpool's last gasp come from behind win against Newcastle at Anfield back in August. That, going into this, was Newcastle's only defeat in the league this season. Liverpool also, coincidentally, the away last team to win at St James's Park back last April, and they swaggered up north after their Merseyside derby romp. But they also knew Newcastle would be a much sterner test than Everton Football Club. Virgil van Dijk, welcome back, Big Virg, from that hamstring injury. That was a boost. Newcastle, Guy Mareshless, but still audacious, buoyed by the fervent, faithful, baying them on. They charged into this one, ripping Liverpool apart on both flanks. Miguel Almiron should have put them in the lead on 4 minutes. In on goal, acres of space, but Alisson charged out to smother. That turned out to be pure misdirection. 2 quick Liverpool goals and a Newcastle red card within 22 minutes turned the entire game on its head. The first, Darwin Núñez, straight down the middle, between the vaunted Newcastle central defenders. He brought it down, lashed it home. Poor man's Andy Carroll indeed. Liverpool's second, delicious, full length of the field team goal. Salah just clipping that ball, no look, into the path of a charging Gakpo. Cody Gakpo, he who last, scores twice in 2 games. Signs, Davo, of that flickering chemistry between the front three starting to live and breathe.
Love a charging Gakpo. It's my favourite kind of Gakpo. Yeah, no, it was an impressive performance. We should say, by the way, I should have mentioned in the Man United game as well. Leicester had some early chances that could have absolutely changed the game, but didn't. In this one too, Newcastle had some chances in this one early. Fantastic save from Alisson, which changed the course of the game. But a Liverpool, just like United, they found a way to win. They played some of the sparkling football that we associate with Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool Football Club. And, bizarrely, I find myself in these strange rooting situations this season, like loving seeing Arsenal play well, loving seeing Man United back to their best. And actually, I've got to admit, enjoyed watching Liverpool flow again.
Yeah, and all the trademarks seem to be coming alive. Alisson tried to do his "I will assist Mo Salah" thing when he rushes after claiming the ball to just punt it long to the streaming curls of Mo Salah. A blur. He's got 3 assists in his Liverpool career, all 3 to a speedy Mo, including that delirious goal against Manchester City. Here, Nick Pope charged out to snuff the danger. But also, God, you can't really snuff out the danger while you're cacking your pants while you do so. He tried to head it. I still can't quite work out what happened. Did he try and head it and just missed? It fell on the ball and somehow decided, I'm falling. I'm going to give the ball a little hug, bless him.
Yeah, I think that was the most accurate description of something which I myself struggled replay after replay to figure out exactly what happened.
Thomas Souček showed him what he should have done. That was the kind of goalkeeping that poor Pope needed in that moment, and it came at some incredible cost. He knew immediately as he handled it, almost started walking immediately, that he got a red. Poor bloke, this is an agony. Will now miss the Carabao Cup final next weekend. Dubravka came in for him on this game, but the big lols in football at the moment is that Dubravka cannot play in the Carabao final, as he's already played for Manchester United in the tournament earlier this season. So Newcastle, Davo, will have to play who? Loris Karius, that poor gent you will remember, who enjoyed a nightmare night for Liverpool in the 2018 Champions League final, which he left broken in heart, broken in tears, not played a competitive game since February 2021. Fielding him, Davo, bold strategy, Cotton.
I thought you were going to say Mike Ashley. So I think Loris Karius is actually a step up. So I think it's not bad for Newcastle. Whoa.
Newcastle actually played better with 10 men. Liverpool fans fluttered a little bit. Their team didn't exactly kill the game off, but they held on. First time in 171 days, Newcastle lost a league game. Longest unbeaten run in the top flight over. Different creature without Guy Moresh. He's missed 6 games for the Toon. They've never won without him. And it's got to be said, Newcastle limping into the Carabao. No wins in their last 4 league games. Just 3 points in that run. And Spurs taking out opportunities to slip ahead of them in the weekend. By the next time Newcastle play, Liverpool could be just 3 points behind them. And it's hard to believe because Newcastle have lost so few games this season, but they've drawn 11. And that is what will bite you because you've got to... I was watching this wondering, what's happened, Davo? Newcastle almost have morphed back to pre-Saudi tune, but Liverpool, snapping into tackles, just that front three starting to gel, leaking definitely recently a clip of goals, but this was their first clean sheet away from home since September. They march on to Madrid, holding their breath on a Darwin Núñez shoulder scan. 6 days ago, they were 12 points behind Newcastle. Now they're just 6, 7 points off the top 4, 2 games in hand on Tottenham. It feels, Davo, Liverpool, out of nowhere, have turned into their Mane-era delirious pomp.
Yeah, no, they're coming back, Rog, without a doubt, and playing their style, their brand of football. Okay, Rog, invisible asteroid on the way in, and that's the end of it. Oh no, Chelsea 0, Southampton 1. Dead last in the table. Southampton, who had appeared to have swiped right on Jesse Marsch earlier in the week, only to see plans to meet up fall through. They stomp into this one managerless, and they defeat Chelsea Football Club also seemingly managerless. The difference, though, here, an arrow from the descendants of the same English longbowman who defeated the French at Agincourt, James Ward-Prowse, a pinpoint free kick. Chelsea just woeful as their problems continue. The Saints, meanwhile, stay last in the table, but are now just 3 points from safety.
God, managerless, listless Southampton. They hadn't kept a clean sheet in 7 games. They'd lost their last 3 matches. Almost felt like much needed respite, a patsy for a manager under just hysterical pressure. Graham Potter, his team had outplayed Dortmund on the road in Champions League midweek, only to cede to a moment of breakaway Adeyemi brilliance. Emerged looking just, we win the stats, but nothing to show for it. Just an expensive Jesse Marsh team. Here, Thiago Silva and Reece James rested because, well, it's only cellar dwellers Southampton, and it turned out to be a day of true folly for Graham Potter. Enzo Fernandez couldn't do it all in the midfield on his own. Kovacic alongside him, both overrun in the centre. João Felix cut off from service. Chelsea almost seemed rocked by the impudence of Southampton's pressing game. Cesar Azpilicueta brought down Stuart Armstrong just outside the area on the stroke of half-time, and you just knew in that moment, didn't you, what James Ward-Prowse was going to do. It's almost like akin to it. Did against Everton recently. It's like akin to a penalty. You know, in that second, there's no stopping it. That's how great he is.
Yeah, you don't give free kicks to Southampton there. Crazy, dumb challenge. And there you go. Beautiful. Kepa is good off the set piece. Very good goalkeeper, very athletic. But, he dove the full length of the goal. Prowse went in the side that he just wasn't defending. Beautiful. Dipped it so low. Amazing. It didn't even go into the top corner. It went into the bottom corner. He's able to dip it over a wall. Superb technique, superb finish.
Oh, the idea of Jesse Marsh being James Ward-Prowse's manager, that's what taught him how to do this. His 17th direct free kick, one away from the Beckham record. And the half-time introduction of Raheem Sterling did give Chelsea some intent, some direct purpose. All hands on deck, Perrault clearing off the line. Graham Potter emptied the bench and a million sitting on it. Wesley Fofana, Kai Havertz, Mudryk flung on. But the stuffing was just knocked out of the game in a sickening moment. I think it was Mara thumped Dave in the face with an attempted bicycle kick. The noise it made on the broadcast was sickening. Dave has said in a post that he thanked medical services and that his rehab now begins. That was a horrible moment.
Yeah, it was awful. It was tough. A very, very long stoppage. And, all the fans for both teams, to be fair, holding their breath to make sure it was all okay. Thankfully, he has since messaged that he's doing okay, and thank all the gods, Rog.
God, Southampton, we've got to give them credit. Free did their figure of ridicule Nathan Jones. They played with spirit. They played with fire. Done the double over Chelsea for the first time in the Premier League era. Their fans ended the game by chanting the name of interim manager Ruben Selles. Ruben. Just a ball of energy on the sideline. Young Spaniard, been an assistant in Greece, in Azerbaijan, in Denmark. Came, I think, originally as a Hasenhüttl assistant. Said before the game, I'm going to dress like a manager because I am a manager. And Southampton, they stay at the foot of the table, but they've got hope, they've got life, which feels like the opposite of your Graham Potter, Davo. Chelsea can't score, can't win. Graham Potter, he's almost got too many options.
Yeah, I mean, he has to rotate the squad because he's got to find places on the bench for players who otherwise aren't going to get there. So it's the interesting thing for me, Rog, and you know how much messaging there is to the press by these elite teams, particularly when they're in time of struggle. And right now you'll read almost every story, and it's Todd Boehly and his co-owner, Behdad Eghbali. Suddenly it's not just Todd Boehly. In the takeovers of the club, you never even read the name of Behdad Eghbali. At the moment that it was good, that Boehly was signing all these players, you never even read his name. Now all of a sudden, it's all about Boehly and Behdad Eghbali and the board, and the idea of the board are they're putting their support behind Graham Potter. That Graham Potter, they believe that long term, they believe he needs to go through a preseason. Mikel Arteta was given time at Arsenal, and now we need to go and give the same time to the former Brighton manager. It is The remarkable thing, though, is that they fired Thomas Tuchel, who had won the Champions League. They were not in this huge rebuilding phase. They had an elite manager who had taken them to the promised land of winning the Champions League. Competing. Got into Europe year after year after year. Not just into Europe, got into the Champions League year after year after year. And now they're sitting in 10th place, closer to the foot of the table than they are to the top, playing football, which, I mean, you say that they played with more purpose in the second half. I mean, I suppose they were better in the second half than they were in the first half. But chance creation, other than the one that Sterling got cleared off the line, there's not a lot of chance creation. There aren't a lot of shots. There aren't a lot of attempts. There's not a lot of initiative. They run into so many blind alleys, all of their players trying to make something happen. You can feel that the players feel weight. This contract situation of Mason Mount still out there, still affecting his play. Reece James, the player that gives the team so much identity and ammunition, rested. It's just hard. It's a whole club in crisis, and it starts at the top. It starts at the very top. I actually feel sorry. I feel sorry for Graham Potter. I think he was brought into an almost impossible situation.
He's making up $14.5 million a year. So,
I don't feel sorry from a financial point of view, but I don't feel like I don't think he's doing a good job. But I look at him on the sideline and I think he is desperate. He has an assembled team of superstars. Yeah, assembled team of superstars. They're not a team. They're like an international squad. They certainly aren't listening, and they certainly aren't playing decent football. And honestly, I just don't know how Burley's going to double his revenues. He may buy Manchester United. And the Premier League may allow him to.
I've thought about how Burley is thinking about this, which is really a chaotic and wonderful question to delve into. The Tuchel thing, speaking to people inside and around the club, Tuchel just didn't respect Burley when he came in. That's why he had to go in that moment. But right now you have a team that have scored, I think, 4 goals in 10 games, all competitions since the start of the year. They've won 2 of their past 14. They were booed off at halftime. They were booed off louder at full time. It's really toxic. It's really toxic there. It's like Leeds fans and Jesse Marsh. It's like Everton fans and Frank Lampard. That's where you've gotten club are really adrift right now. It's like you've had the Augustus Gloop transfer window. Potter have said, some people think I'm the problem. I don't think they are right. I think
because he knows that Burley's the problem. I mean, everything you said. I mean, talk about briefing the press. Briefing the press that Tuchel didn't respect the chairman enough, and they want the same kind of relationship that Pep has with the board at Manchester City. That is a remarkable, remarkable thing. And the reason that they're putting their support behind Potter is they think that he respects them, that he's going to listen to them. Oh, my word.
It's less he's going to listen to them. It's more that he's so far below them. He's the assistant manager to the assistant manager. And I've got to say, this Chelsea moment does not make Potter a bad manager. He's just the wrong man for this context. He's trying to lead a madness, essentially. And God bless Todd Burley. Spent $1 billion on Chelsea, almost building them in an image of what Elon Musk has done since wandering into Twitter with a kitchen sink in his hands. It makes no sense. Almost feels like, honestly, to me, it almost feels like Abramovich has some kind of buyback clause for when the Ukraine war is over and it's safe for him to re-emerge. And all Todd thought about doing was just increasing the value of his club between purchase and resale. But to lead in those conditions needs an Ancelotti or dare I say, a Tuchel. But outside of PSG, it's hard to think of a more unstable, star-stat locker room than Chelsea Football Club right now. And by the way, the only person I think in Todd Burley's mind who can lead it, and I bet you he's thinking about this, is Todd Burley, interim manager. Why not, oh Todd? Do it!
I can't believe you're saying this. So one, before I get to my point, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to defend Elon Musk from that comparison. Because while I do agree that he's done an absolutely appalling job running Twitter and that he is in many ways just the antithesis of everything I stand for, he's at least come into Twitter and cut costs. Whereas Burley has massively increased the overhead of Chelsea Football Club, which just, has the potential of destroying the club. But the point I was going to make is that this morning, for some reason, I woke up and all I started thinking about, because I was trying to think about what would Burley do if he if Graham Potter loses a couple more games, and you're right, there is this incredible pressure on him. I'm going to be at Stamford Bridge for the next home game against Leeds.
Oh,
with my
like
son,
Hanks.
his first ever
You're gonna
game.
Hanks it.
Hanks it. I'm going to Hanks it. Believe me, I doubt the cameras will be cutting to me. And I can imagine him bringing in a manager, but I started thinking he'll bring in Phil Jackson. That he'll be the guy who will actually do the real Ted Lasso thing and bring in somebody from US sports who has absolutely no idea about coaching a football team. That will be where he'll go.
That'd be incredible. I would love to see that. Watch Phil Jackson walk in on that first day and just hand Mudryk a copy of Aldous Huxley, The Doors of Perception. It's genius. Do it, on Todd. Do it.
Yeah, we could see it. Okay. On to happier news. Tottenham 2, West Ham 0, with Spurs technical area once again transformed to the non-smoking section after Antonio Conte was advised to continue resting after his gallbladder surgery. Get better soon, Antonio. Spurs rebound from last weekend, shellacking by Leicester to deliver victory here. A flowing team goal capped by Emerson Royal and another from the Kane to Sonny connect. See Spurs leapfrog Newcastle into the top 4.
Spurs, the most baffling team in football.
Can't keep up. Don't know what I'm watching.
They're just unreliable narrators. They beat Manchester City one week, then crap the bed and are blown out by Leicester the next. Then they drown in Milan in Champions League action. It is the most befuddling narrative, the most unbelievable, unfathomable, improbable narrative in the Premier League. We keep writing them off. They keep surging. We expect them to kick on. I hate that football phrase. They've got to kick on now. They wilt against a suddenly flailing West Ham in a London derby with enormous repercussions at both ends of the old table. Antonio Conte apparently texting his assistant Christian Stellini because he's in Italy, recuperating after gallbladder surgery. This was very much a Tottenham on week. Sad Son. Oh, it sounds like an awful Elton John song. Dropped for the Richarlison. Just the second time this season that the Richarlison replaced him, and Spurs started slowly as West Ham played for a point, set to smother the game, very Moisey, and it worked for the first half until Tottenham just upped their intensity. I'd love to know what Stellini did when he got that text from Antonio Conte saying, get the blowtorch out for Oliver Skip. In the locker room at halftime, whether he just texted back saying, done it, boss, or whether he actually did it. These are the things we need to know. But Conte's system is one that has always needed wing-backs. On this day, they surged. Davis, Romero, excellent. Højbjerg, so solid in the middle. Break came from Davis. Free down the flank to set up Royal. Clinical finish, for which he bizarrely got a kick in the shins from his own teammate Romero as a reward. Sonny on, 66 minute, instant impact. Within 5 minutes, Kane did well to muscle off Ogbonna, deliver his now signature telepathic mind meld pass to Sonny, control, finish like the son of old. Davo, Heung-min Son, 20 starts this season, 1 goal. 2 substitute appearances, 4 goals. He ends up happiest right now. Almost he needs to experience true sadness on the bench, it seems like.
Yeah, a player who plays better at the point that he's taken offence, at the point that, at the point of opprobrium. That's where he does, that's where he brings out his best football.
God, we haven't used the word opprobrium on the podcast before. This is a very exciting moment in Men of Ages history.
Invisible asteroids, opprobrium, like all these things, yeah.
West Ham, God, dropping into the bottom 3. I'm in danger. And they remain without the injured Lucas Paqueta, who, judging by the videos he unleashed after their loss, is quite happy playing video games at home anyway. Drawn a lot of games. They've won very few. And this relegation battle is super curious because there's no evident weakling. Every team is picking up points. And Moyes' conservative approach of leaving strikers isolated, holding on, leaving them vulnerable. The Times reported this morning that the Moyes will be sacked if West Ham lose Saturday against Forest. I imagine Leeds will hire David Moyes immediately. But they Spurs back 4th. 1 more point than Newcastle, who've played a game less. We write Spurs off. They rebound. They play Chelsea next weekend. And the weird storyline, Christian Stellini, interim manager, played 3, won 3. A lot of Spurs fans I know are just like, don't rush back, Antonio. Your health is
He's
very
great over text.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
Very important. Take your time resting up. Sure, they've just got AI chat texting back to Antonio, and it's not actually Stellini at all. This is a club of rumours. An American, Yaom Nafarji, is said to have made his first bid to take over the club. Rumours abounding that Conte is going to be given a graceful exit, graceful out. Oh, health is important. And deep rumours, Davo, of a Pochettino return, which would be a feel-good option on all sides.
That's amazing stuff. Okay, Brighton 0, Fulham 1. Two Cinderellas wrestling over the glass slipper that is Europa League football. And it's the Cottagers who come out on top. A real smash and grab job on the south coast where Fulham seemed pinned in their own half for much of the game, only to snatch a glorious 88th minute winner from the left peg of Shakhtar Donetsk, Goloni and Israeli international Manor Solomon. They are up into 6th place, just 4 points off the top 4.
Negev Dagger, 6th versus 7th. Clash of two cuddly overachievers. First loss in 2023 for Brighton. And a day of challenge for the De Zerbi Love Tour. Brighton manager saw red at the final whistle, stormed on the field to remonstrate with match officials. For the second week on the run, left seething with the quality of refereeing after his team had dominated the game, but exited with nothing. Fulham, Mitrovic-less, needed a late 88th minute goal from Israeli international Manor Solomon. 2 goals in 2 weeks for him. Tim Ream, hockey assist on that one. And God bless De Zerbi. He'd just given Solomon, who played for him in his Shakhtar Donetsk days, an enormous hug when he came on. That'll teach him. Fulham somehow escape with the double over Brighton, leap over the Seagulls into 6th place.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. Brentford 1, Crystal Palace 1. Low-key London town scrap sees these sides split the spoils. It was the visitors from south of the river who took the lead on 69 minutes when Eberechi Eze crashed home a lovely header. But in the 96th minute, with Palace looking to be on their way to their first win of 2023, the Bees, Vitali Janelt, answered with a Hamburg 5 head of his own to extend Brentford's unbeaten run to 11 league games.
Yeah, Janelt, almost a last touch of the match. That undefeated run of 11, the Premier League's best active stretch. 21 points gleaned in the process. It's incredible, including wins over Manchester City and Liverpool. Almost unfathomable. Got a week off now, 2 rests because the Bees went to face United next weekend. And I just admire watching Brentford so bloody much. We've seen so many teams come up and thrive initially and then burn off. You know, think of Sheffield United season 2 or even Leeds United season 2, and that Brentford are level on points with 7th place Brighton and Liverpool. What Thomas Frank is doing there, nothing short of incredible. For me, that gent, stealth manager of the season.
Absolutely. Wolves 0, Bournemouth 1. The Cherries claw their way out of the relegation zone, Rog, thanks to their first victory since manager Gary O'Neill was appointed permanent manager at the end of November. The difference in this one, a 49th minute goal of Marcus Tavernier's meaty Yorkshire thigh. A huge win for big carts and mini carts here. If you know, you know.
Oh, what a deep cut. Wolves, God bless, cannot score. And were taught a lesson about clinicality by Bournemouth, who found the back of the net with their only shot on target all game. A massive Cherry weekend. First away points in over 4 long months. First away clean sheet of the season. Michael B. Jordan's boys have a pulse.
And finally, Roger. Oh, look at you. You're so happy. Everton
I never
won.
thought I'd live to
Leeds
see another Everton
0.
win, honestly.
Result of the weekend in the Men in Blazers universe, even a universe teeming with invisible asteroids, Roger. A massive relegation 6-pointer in which you, Roger, faced up to your American brethren, of course. Rog, you were sitting on the couch. The American Yorkshire diaspora of Adams, McKennie and Harrison were actually playing in the game. But a Seamus Coleman goal, the legs of Killibegs, sees Everton down Leeds and emerge their heads from the relegation zone, much like Ewan McGregor emerged from that toilet in Trainspotting.
The worst toilet in Scotland. Oh my God. The sad derby. That is what this was. Just 2 old yellers playing each other. Loser should have been relegated, honestly, immediately or taken down to the river in a bag. Either or. I mean, immediately it should have happened after the final whistle. But I've got to say, my confidence could not have been lower going into this game. It will not surprise you. I think just staring at all these invisible asteroids for 4 days before the game will do that to a person. I was on my nerves' ends. Everton can't score. We know this. DCL injured again. Davo starting to think he's sick. Sick of football. And without him, everything just felt dark. I went to bed Friday night and honestly, I could not sleep just thinking over and over again of Willie Gnonto tearing at Seamus Coleman. It just felt so dark and it felt all the worse, as you said in your introduction, that the team I love were playing human beings that I adore. Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, the American Bash brothers, Brendan Aronson on the bench. And the prospect of one of them doing Everton in, Davo, it was like Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice thought it was hard. This was unbearable.
Difficult for you. And it was the game was an agony in many ways. It was physical. It was a real bottom of the table scrap. Both teams, both managers, you sense feeling how important the result would be.
Yeah, it was a horrible game. I mean, horrible from a footballing perspective. Adams and Onana just Godzilla-ing, Mecha Godzilla-ing in the midfield, as everybody else on both teams just seemed to be like, oh, I'm crap at football. Why am I even going to try? Leeds sat back. They're content to leave the ball at the feet of Dwight McNeil. It's kind of like watching Ben Simmons from 3-point range. Rarely have I seen a winger not named Adama Traore so unable to unfurl a basic cross. He really is. Dwight McNeil is really the George Santos of footballers. Single worst performer I've ever seen wear an Everton jersey. Who's your Chelsea equivalent, Davo? Is he like Mudryk without the butterfly neck tattoo game?
Well, I wonder who was the worst player. But I mean, I used to enjoy Jesper Grønkjær. Couldn't cross. He was a winger. Remember Jesper Grønkjær? He couldn't.
Good-looking guy.
Yeah, but he couldn't cross at all. He did occasionally put crosses into the back of the net, which we'll get to later. But was not much of a crosser of the ball. Yeah, Chelsea have had some pretty poor players. I mean, Saul, our recent player, Saul, he was pretty awful on the few occasions I saw him.
Dwight McNeil is so awful. I was just seething at Dwight McNeil. And then I got a mate of mine, Everton supporting mate of mine, Scott, texted me out the blue. We weren't conversing. It just came from me. He said, this is his literal text. He said, amazes me we paid actual real money for McNeil. He is proof Everton should be permanently banned from spending. He said the January transfer window, when we did not bring a single player in, will actually end up being the only window we didn't get worse. And that's what it felt like watching in despair. I was watching, not so much that these men are paid to do this, whatever do means here. It's just, I just suddenly was just overwhelmed by a sense of, oh my God, we are going to struggle in the Championship next season. That's how I felt watching this. And there was the Tyler Adams, Dwight McNeil fight. I honestly wanted both men to be sent off because it would have been a double win for Everton. But anyway, can we just say Tyler and Weston, they seem to just be in the Premier League just for the bar brawling. You know, Paul Carr texted, Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie are the first pair of US internationals to each get a yellow card in the same Premier League game since Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie 10 days ago. You've got to go 10 years back to 2012, Brad Guzan and Eric Lehigh, for the one that came before them. Tyler is definitely a boss. Tyler's definitely a dog. There's a dog in him, as you like to say, here in the United States. But there's some yellow cards that are a bit mad. This was one of them. You know, it's like almost like watching them. They've got their mentality turned on don't back down mode. And I do worry that craftier teams will work out how to wind Tyler up, get him 2 yellow cards and take advantage.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the fighting for respect thing. You know, and we've talked before, there are some struggles being an American player in the Premier League. You know, we saw this is sort of Dempsey-like. I think the Men in Blazers made a social post that was to that end. It is, you know, it's fighting for respect, standing up for himself, showing that, you know, he's not a guy of incredible stature in terms of pure height. He wants to make sure people know he's there. So, yeah, but I agree. This is the kind of stuff that you get that other teams start to figure out. There was a moment earlier in the weekend, that moment when, Arteta started trying to wind up the official with the ball rolling thing. And I was like, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Even Zinchenko was like, F you to the Aston Villa players. You just sometimes don't want to show that kind of
reaction,
frustration and that level of stuff. Your fans love it,
yeah,
but it's not necessarily good from a competitive point of view.
A good manager will put his arm around these American players and say, you always say, you don't know where I'm from, dog. We do know where you're from now, dog. We all know where you're from, dog. And especially Tyler Adams, a phenomenal footballer. I worry what opponents are going to be seeing in their game film. Second half, dire. Neither team could connect to pass Dyer, and part of the joy of the game when you're watching 100% turd, sometimes even there, a moment of human truth can unfurl itself, and so it came to pass. Still not quite sure what I saw. First of all, Seamus Coleman was chasing down a pass that was so overhit, it was like almost out of bounds before he even started running. Somehow, he corralled it. There was still no real danger. Just to be clear, this is Everton Football Club. Did we have a man in the middle? Of course we didn't. Did we, hell? We don't do that. And what happened next, Dave? When a footballer pulls back his foot to shoot from a dangerous place, and you feel instinctively, you hold your breath, what is going to happen next? But this was so not a dangerous place. You expected almost nothing. There was no, it was just like, it was just so low affect, a low moment of nothingness. But what followed? It's almost like, I still don't know. Was it a glitch, Davo? Was it a synapse in space or a hole in time? Because apart from when the Kansas City Chiefs do misdirection at the line, and you can't work out if Mahomes has the ball or a running back has it, it's all so confusing. My brain still synapses at what we witnessed.
When I watched it in real time, I assumed it was a cross. When I watched it again in replay, I assumed again that it was a cross. And maybe the second time I watched it in replay. However, the third time I watched it, when I noticed that it's not like, the player was running into the box. There was no one to cross to. No one had made any effort.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin was still the nearest Everton player to Seamus, and he wasn't even in the stadium.
Yeah. It was so far away. I started realizing, surely a player of Seamus Coleman's, knowledge and experience knew that. And so therefore, ergo, it must have been a shot. In which case, one has to call into question Mellier's position, because he must also know that there is no player running into the box to go and cross it. So why is he standing so far out? It just was extraordinary.
God, poor Meslier, who has bailed Leeds out on so many occasions this season, but he does always have a mistake in him. That's what that was. But Seamus, just arc, was it fade, slice, whatever it was, just... I don't like to be hyperbolic, you know me, but this was the greatest goal football has ever seen. That's what it looked like on the face of Seamus's teammates. Doucouré just looked at him, just like a child, like, oh my God, complete confusion, probably because we're wearing Everton shirts. We don't do that kind of thing. And that is the joy of football, just as darkness seems to be utterly descending upon your soul, a crevice of light will shine. And again, religious moment for me. Second religious moment this weekend. Leeds, got to say, that was it for them. They bled out one of the worst performances of the season in the campaign, full of them. Players just rolled over, no fight, no care almost. And I know that feeling as an Everton fan. That is dark. That's what we felt against Southampton. And the moral of the story is that we are crap. Leeds are crapper. I think they had 0 shots on goal in this one. The interim manager Skubala lost. The fans mutinous. San Francisco 49ers poised to take over. But I think they're kind of like, why would we pay a Premier League team price when we can wait and buy for Championship cheaper? But my God, Leeds lost at Goodison last season. That was the end of Bielsa almost. This season, it's really... by the way, this is a team that Graham Potter could mould, honestly. This young squad, and seeing Everton fans empathise with the Leeds fans as they chanted "sack the board" at the end, it is God, it is a deep worry what is happening. The situation those American players find themselves in there, David.
Yeah. No, it's going to be, and, American fans, new American fans of the club also.
Stay the course. But for Everton, honestly, I felt on this day what I imagine Argentinian fans felt when their teams had won the World Cup. A clean sheet. Yes, being the flailing Leeds at home 1-0. That's what it does to you. Clean sheet, 2 home wins on the trot. Just to be clear, there is going to be so much more darkness for us to come in the season ahead. But on this day, 1-0 over the Leeds. One of the greatest days of my life. GFOP at Jokers in the Deck tweeted us, no club thunders up to 16th place quite like Everton. Up the toffees. God bless you. And I'll tell you this, we will see fire. We will see rain. We'll see a lot of rain before this season is over. But if Ginger Pep can miracle another 1-0 win against Villa next weekend, I will be starting a GoFundMe to smelt a statue of that bastard.
Wonderful, Rog. Okay, I'm very happy for you. Before we go, a quick reminder about everything we've got happening at Men in Blazers this week. A new European Nights drops tomorrow ahead of this week's Champions League action. And talking of said Champions League action, you're going to be doing a special Tuesday amp after that. Before we leave.
Come on, Mr. Carlin.
Can we get a toast, Rogelio?
Let me just pour one. Hold on 1 second. Just talk amongst yourselves, Davo, as I Jägermeister myself up.
You love Jägermeistering yourself up.
GFOP shot glass. Yeah,
I love that.
I like to dab a little bit of Jägermeister behind both ears before I go out the pub. I want to raise this shot of Jägermeister, this bowl of human emotion in a glass, to the United States women who won their second game on the trot at She Believes, the worst named football tournament, not named Carabao. They beat a shattered Canadian team 2-0 in their opener. Canadians' hearts and minds clearly on battling their own insipid football federation. What a hot mess. Last night, a rotated US 11 scraped past a deeply impressive Japan 1-0. US midfield honestly couldn't live with the Japanese pressing game for long stretches. Their ability to pass and move. If you're the Spanish or English coach, you would have been salivating as you took tactical notes on this one. But the US escaped with the win thanks to Pew Pew Pew. Mal Swanson, who scored on the break, on the stroke of half time. He's now got 6 goals in the last 4 games, 50% of the United States goals in 2023. Career high, I think it's just one more for an entire season for the US for her. Sweltering form. United States go again Wednesday night against Brazil. They remain very much a work in progress with the Women's World Cup 150 days away.
Yeah, sweltering form and sweltering speed. A wonderful goal. Okay, you can follow us on Twitter at Men in Blazers, at MC Davis, at Rosh Bennett, on Instagram at Men in Blazers, at MC Davis, on Facebook with the Men in Blazers, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Men in Blazers. We're on YouTube. You can see a video version of our podcast, including this podcast, which we're going to release in full, Rog, with invisible asteroid content. That is right from the opening to the close. Check it out on our YouTube right now. Also, our TikTok, where we just put a quite incredible tackle from the Sunderland versus Bristol City over the weekend, where Sunderland ledge Luke O'Nane literally gets a piggyback ride from an opposition player. Just go look at it on our TikTok. Be sure to head to Men in Blazers and see our content there. You can always email us at meninblazers@gmail.com. Venderpunk Roger.
War Pig.
Was that a Rabona?
I like snacks.
Balds win, Balds win.
Take that, Gloria.
Balds lose.
To Tweed.
Abrigado, rock on, mate.
Kung Fu fighting America. Love you, Davo.
Love you, Roger.
I love you, Seamus Coleman.